In former times, there was only one way of making provisions for old age. People had children and hoped that at least some of them would survive. Later on, our ancestors expected to receive material support from their children once they had become economically active. In China, in India, and in many parts of Africa, this is still the case. Since the late 19th century, however, different types of social insurance systems have emerged in Europe. Today, almost all adult Europeans are covered by a social insurance scheme and can therefore rely on some pension payments in their old age. Generally, there are three ways to provide income for the elderly, also referred to as the three pillars of pension systems, with each having different models of financing. The first pillar refers to pensions backed by state guarantees. In Europe, social insurance coverage is mandatory for almost all persons who are gainfully employed. They have to pay a percentage of their income into the social security system, and/or the employers must pay such contributions. Then the following happens. Either the contributions of employers and gainfully employed persons are paid out immediately to current retirees. This social insurance model is referred to as a pay-as-you-go system. Or the contributions are used to buy bonds, stocks, and other assets. By this method, assets are accumulated in order to cover future pension payments. This is called a funded pension system. The second pillar refers to all forms of voluntary or mandatory retirement provisioning at the corporate level. In this instance, employers either pay into a retirement fund that invests the money and later on pays out an old age pension. This is then a funded system. Or the employers simply make a commitment to pay a company pension and then directly pay out a pension to their former employees once they retire. This is then financed out of future earnings of the respective company. The third pillar refers to all forms of private retirement provisioning that accumulates a capital base for use after retirement. This pillar includes long-term savings plans, life insurance policies, and rent-paying real estate. In some countries, the state promotes private retirement provisioning by granting bonus payments or tax incentives. All three pillars have their benefits and disadvantages. The pay-as-you-go insurance model depends strongly on two factors. On the one hand, on the number of gainfully employed people and the level of their wages. This is the basis for the amount of the annual contributions. On the other hand, on the number of older persons and their actual retirement age. Both together determine the total volume of all pay-as-you-go pensions. Therefore, in this case, there are two major risk factors. The first risk is the labor market, in particular stagnating real wages and a declining workforce, because this also means smaller contributions to Social Security. The other risk factor is well known. It's the aging society. The rapidly growing number of older persons almost automatically translates into more people receiving pensions. The capital-funded system carries a completely different risk, namely the capital markets themselves. When stock markets decline, or when, like at present, hardly any interest is being paid on safe bonds, or when certain countries have difficulties servicing their sovereign debt, like in the case of Greece, then this also affects all people whose old age provisions rely on a pension fund or a life insurance policy. So what can we do? There are only two practical recommendations. First, do not retire too early. And second, if possible, build your old age pension on more than just one pillar.